Hi, Joe. How
Hi,
are
Denise.
you?
I'm all right, plodding along as normal. Nice to see you.
It's great to see you. Now, I just have to get you recorded here live.
Okay.
So here we are live now on the Positive People Show, and welcome. And thank you so much for coming along. How are you?
I'm all right. I've got no idea what's going on. I'm just sort of getting on with it, really, as I normally do.
Well, everybody, if people who don't know me, I'm Denise Devlin from Positive Parties Train with a Difference, and we deliver workshops, seminars, programs to companies, to schools, to public sector, and now we're back out there doing it live for people and bringing positivity into the workplace and doing it in a fun way, just what people want right now. But now here, I'm so delighted to introduce Getting Real with Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe Delaney, I think I've known you about 3 years now, have I? Possibly about 3 years.
Seems like a lifetime, Denise.
It does. And there's such a strong connection. I just love you and your lovely wife, Kat. You're just amazing. And I just am so excited to have you here now on the Positive People Show, because you have so much to say and you're great crack, and you've got that good Irish blood in you as well. And I'm sure you'll have plenty of stories to tell us along the way. But do you want to just give us just a wee bit of background about what you do? Tell us what your doctorate's in, because I always think that's very interesting. And then just tell us, I know you've got such an interesting story of times that you weren't very positive and how you turned your life around. So go for it, Joe.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm Dr. Joe Delaney. I'm not a doctor of medicine, but I'm a doctor in medicine. And all that means really is that I did a PhD in medicine, which basically looked at how what goes on between your ears impacts upon the rest of your body. So it's really mind-body medicine in a way, or, you know, but my particular area of focus was the heart and how our thinking actually is intimately related with the way that our heart works. And what I found out through my studies is that we can change the way our heart works to change the way our head works. So really, it's taking behavioral change and turn it upside down and trying to change our physiology to change our psychology. So it's the opposite way around of things like cognitive behavioral therapy. Not that I'm knocking CBT at all or anything like that, but I think that we need to work mind, body, mind. Those things should be one word, I think, you know, because it's almost like an infinity symbol. I don't know whether you've seen that, but the infinity symbol, it's always moving. And I think that that's what happens between our brain and our mind and our heart, you know. So again, it's really about how thinking and feeling conspire together to help us to make either wise choices and healthy choices or unwise choices. And for the first part of my life, I made a lot of unwise choices, you know. And where it took me in the end, Denise, was it took me into stress, anxiety, depression, and alcoholism, really, because alcohol was my way of temporarily relieving all these horrible emotional feelings that I had. So that was my sort of way of chemically sort of tranquilizing myself to try and get on with life. And I was like that for about 15 years, just drinking to try and lead a normal life. And in the end, the drink got hold of me. And in the end, I tried to take my own life because I just couldn't carry on. I was hurting that many people. I was hurting myself. And really, yeah, I tried on a couple of occasions. I shouldn't be alive, Denise, if the truth be known.
Right, yeah.
But what actually happened was, in this process of trying to do myself in, which I was a failure at as well, thank God, you know, I got a feeling, this feeling descended upon me. Now, I didn't know what was going on at the time, but I got this feeling that descended upon me. And I know today that that was what's called the peace that passeth all understanding. And in that, in fact, Denise, this is what happens to me. I've got a thing going up my spine now and a great big feeling coming up here now. Now, I don't know. I know what it is, but I don't really get into the details of it really, because it can be a bit distracting really. So in this process of going, I got this peaceful feeling. I was shown exactly how the universe worked, I was given all these algebraic symbols and everything, you know, and I can remember sort of saying, please let me keep this, let me understand it and stuff, and it went away. But I got a sense of that I was knocking on the door of heaven or hell or something like that. But they opened the door and says, what do you want? And I said, well, I'd like to come in, please, because I can't handle it down here. And he said, no, you're not ready yet. Turn round. They kicked me up the bottom and they almost said to me, we'll show you the correct way to do it. And if we show you, you have to show other people. Right. And that's what I've been doing now, Denise, for nearly 30 years. I've been waking up one day at a time and trying to make the best of it. You know, and when I say I'm a positive person these days, I mean that generally speaking, I have a light-hearted feeling. I'm not an idiot with it, but, you know, I'm not trying to sort of rah, yes, you can, and talk people out of real feelings. What I do is to help them to accept where they're up to try and put a more positive and realistic slant on things. So that they can make healthier choices. And the way that I do that is it's a combination of ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience. So I teach people how to reconnect, if you like, with their essential selves and receive the information from there. I'm not off going on, but I'll just do this little bit now. I don't give them the answers or the solutions to their problems, because I believe that I listened to external experts for a long time and it nearly saw me off. You know, so what I do now is I go deep inside myself. I almost like tap and say, look, I'm in trouble here. Give us a clue, will you? And more or less the answer will come, not necessarily there and then, but as I go along, then I've made the request. Sometimes information comes in from out of the blue to say you're best off turning left this time rather than going right. Very simple, straightforward instructions from my essential self. Does that make sense?
Totally. I love it. Thank you. And it's a bit like this. If other people are watching here, you know, what you're saying, you know, it was also said by like Dr. Joe Dispenza, or like the heart math. That math, it's like the heart. You know, what you're saying is, you know, bringing the the mind-heart coherence, isn't that it? Bringing the two together.
It is. In actual fact, my PhD, which was started in 1996, I started to measure the heart in that way using something called heart rate variability analysis. Now, I didn't know about heart math. I didn't know about these things. But over the years, it seems like I was being guided in the same way that other people were being guided. And I actually use heart math instrumentation now as a biofeedback device to show people how their breathing is intimately and intricately connected with the way that their heart works. And by changing their breathing to a specific sort of frequency, or generally specific, if there's such a thing, and also bringing in an honest, heartfelt, positive emotion, what actually happens now is neuroscience has found that you can actually create new pathways in your brain which are associated with positive habits now. So it's called neural plasticity, and it's about sort of reconfiguring your brain away from the old fear process to more of a love-based caring process.
And then how do you find, Joe, that what's getting away from the old programs? Because we all have so many old programs, old conditioning, old limiting beliefs that we've, you know, maybe heard a snotty old cross teacher told us at school, you know, and said, you'll never make anything of yourself, or, you know, you can't do this. And, you know, people will have had that in their lives, or like even a parent telling you you're not good enough, or somebody, you know, most people throughout their lives have had that, where generations years ago thought it would toughen you up if they told you were no good. So, I mean, people are still carrying that stuff. How do you advise those who come to you and say, listen, I'm still carrying a lot of this, and we carry it in our cellular memory also. So how would you advise anybody then to change? How do you change these programs?
Well, the first thing is you accept it. So you need to get some space. So by doing this mindful breathing, what it actually does is it creates some space, if you like, from the first defensive thought, you know, because we all have, the first thing we do is we process information and we decide whether it's friend or foe. Yeah. And with that comes our bodily reaction. Some people grit their teeth, some people stamp their feet, you know. So it's becoming more and more aware of how we've just taken the bait emotionally. Because as soon as we engage with something in a defensive way, there will be a body clue to go with it. Now, generally speaking, Denise, right, that brings with it a contraction. It's called an egocentric contraction. That brings with it a contraction. In the contractive state, we can't think objectively. Our thinking becomes all about us. So that's the first thing I help people with is, where do you feel it in your body? You know, what's the contraction? Because then the next thing to do is, am I in physical danger? Generally speaking, we're not. These are psychological and emotional things. So we can gain some space without taking action, because most people don't even know that they're processing this information. So they're living, if you like, a sort of mindless, opposite of mindful, a mindless, emotionally reactive life. Once you can sort of get a handle on, oh, hang on a second, I've just taken the bait in some way there, and then breathe away and disengage from that connection, take a step back and then reanalyze it, have a look at it and try and work that way. One thing I've learned, Denise, is in order to get rid of old habits, you can't rewrite new habits on top of them. Right, because it's like a boil, you know what I mean? Unless you let it come out and heal, there's always some sort of pus festering underneath the surface, you know gross. What I mean? Yeah, I'm sorry to be gross, but people will remember that now. Just have this bubbling pus, like yellow custard, with a cap on it. And so what we've basically got to do, Denise, is we've almost got to, acceptance says, yes, that's correct. So that opens the skin, if you like. And then we've got to go underneath the problem and breathe it away. So this cleansing energy that's currently sweeping across the planet, excuse me, it works behind the stem cells. So as you quite rightly say, muscle memory is basically held within the DNA of cells. So we almost have to get behind that and allow this template of love and light and all these sorts of things. People talk like that. But to me, it's a cleansing energy that will restore you back to your essential self. So in the old terms, it's expunging all the fear-related conditioning that we've lived our life by. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. And how would you use your breathing then? If you were going to explain to anybody about your breathing techniques, what would you use? Say all of a sudden, you know, I was getting this, oh my goodness, I've got this memory, or I'm feeling rubbish, or this has just come into my head about something. How would you say to me, right, Denise, I want you to breathe that out?
Yeah, what I do basically, it's not about thinking, it's about feeling. So the first thing I get people to do is tap on their heart. So this is heart-centered breathing. So they can put their hand on their heart and almost sort of search for the center of their heart. And if they like, then they can put the other one on top of that with a bit of pressure. So now they can feel that pressure. And then I'll say to them, just relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, let your eyes go soft and gentle and a bit googly, and then just sort of focus on the feeling in the palm of your hands. So almost now bring in like a feeling that's got like a snuggly, caring, nurturing type feeling. Now, some people can't do that. So what I do is I say to them, get a picture in your mind of something that you really love, something that you really enjoy, something that really brings with it a feeling of open-hearted and positivity. So it might be your favorite child, you know, so you get the picture in, you see their face smiling at you, right? You pick up the feeling from that. Once you've got hold of that feeling, you can get shut of the child. Now, if children don't work for you, it could be a favorite pet, you know, so you might have a favorite cat. If pets and children don't work, try your wallet, you know. Think about putting your wallet there if it makes you feel good. The whole point is to get the feeling and then to breathe the feeling in from the heart. So it goes in, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. All the way in. And all the way out. So again, there's that infinity symbol as we're coming in. Now, what I say to people as I'm leading them through this is, you know, on the stop, collect all the gunge that's deep inside of you, and on the out breath, breathe it back out. You know, and if you're into talking about the universe, you can give it back to the universe, or you can just breathe it out. You know, it depends what sort of audience I'm talking to. If it was academics, I'd talk about resetting cardiac autonomic tone or something like that. But if it's to normal people like us, I'll say give it back to the universe, you know.
Okay. So yeah, because that's a bit of a mouthful, lad. Say that again.
Which one? The cardiac autonomic, yeah, resetting cardiac, that's the heart. Yeah. Autonomic, that's to do with the autonomic nervous system. Tone, that's the balance between these. And the autonomic nervous system, Denise, it's got two components. One's an accelerator and one's a brake.
Right.
And what we need to do is, most of us have been living with the accelerator full on and the brake full on at the same time.
Wow, so that's interesting.
Yeah, and that's the, I'll say technical words, that's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems.
Right.
If you're into traditional Chinese medicine, that would be the yin and the yang.
Right.
You know, if you're into understanding the feminine and the masculine aspects of individuals. Now, we all have feminine and masculine aspects. If you look at the testosterone and estrogen, all human beings have proportions of that within us. Yeah. So if you like, we have masculine hormones and feminine hormones, you know. Yeah. That's why, and hormones affect our mood as well. That's why when ladies of a certain age, and I'm going to get into trouble here, they go through that menopause, and what happens is they start to grow beards, right? And their voice drops and they become much more reasonable.
You're going to get shot.
I know that, yeah. And yeah, if anybody from the woke community, go back to sleep. But yeah, Sinead, so the whole point
Sinead's going to get you for that, you know.
Oh yeah, she will, yeah, she will, yeah. Yeah, please, from this moment on, I'd like to be known as Joe. That'll do, you know. So what I'm trying to say, Denise, is this is not so much for people who've been over masculinized to then revert and become feminine. It's about a sacred mystical union or communion or sacred marriage, or where the masculine and the feminine, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, they work in collaboration and coherence with one another. Perfect balance, Denise, perfect balance.
You see, as you spoke there about the masculine and the feminine, that's when I get the goosebumps. So that's obviously the language that sits for me. The hairs of my arms always stand up, and I just feel the energy up and down my body. So yeah, and it's everything's about balance, isn't it? It's about everything in moderation. But that's just really interesting about the brake, being on the brake and the accelerator at the same time. Because I felt that recently. I feel like this past 18 months have just been such a roller coaster, haven't they, for us all? And sometimes you feel as if you're moving forward and you're going back, and then sometimes you're like wanting to move forward, but it's like you're in this place where it's like, woo, and you don't know what's going on.
Well, what I've discovered is, how do I know I'm in balance? I just feel like I'm in balance. I'm in a sort of a neutral place that isn't really neutral. Some people call this the 0 point. But what I see is the 0 point. It's almost as if your left and right hemispheres of your brain are actually working with one another in harmony. That then impacts, and it does, and I've shown this, it impacts upon the way that the signals are sent from your brain to your heart. Now, if you perceive a threat, then obviously the signal of the accelerator will go on, right? The brake will come off temporarily, and so it will drive you forward. However, the problem is, Denise, is when the threat isn't really a threat. And I think, believe it or not, there are marketing organizations and unscrupulous organizations that would keep you in fear so that you can't get a balanced viewpoint. But that's maybe a story for another time.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on at the moment. There definitely is. Yeah. So tell us about fear. Sorry.
sorry, I mean, the other thing I've learned, Denise, is I need to look out for fear, because most of the fear I had wasn't really to be fearful of, really. And I think that the more that you can let go of these old coping strategies that were probably developed in the first 7 years of our life, that still choose for us, once you can accept that, and people, adult people, you know, responsible people, they don't like to hear things like, yes, I'm working with my inner child. But in actual fact, I think that's what it really is, you know. There's an inner, if you're into transactional analysis at all, so in transactional analysis, we have these 3 ego states. There's a child state, a parent state, and in the middle, there's a balance, if you like, the heart is an adult state. And in perfect balance, the parent is a nurturing, caring, compassionate, guiding influence. And the child is playful, full of life, full of awe, full of vitality. Those two meet in the heart then, in the now, in the eternal moments. And then we can go forward then from a balanced perspective. However, if we're emotionally sensitive and we feel it in the gut, then the child then, right, can become frightened or even rebellious. It depends, there's different characteristics. And then the parent self, and don't forget, these 3 things are happening in us all the time. The parent self then becomes very controlling. Now, initially, it's meant for defense, but over time, if the parent remains in place, it becomes controlling then. It can become cruel, you know. So there's many, many different sort of correlations between these 3 ego states.
Totally. And it's about just taking the time to do that work and do the inner work. But I think more people are doing that now, aren't they? Really looking at inner child, you know, presence process. I don't know if you've ever done that, Michael Brown. I've kind of talked about that in a couple of the shows. And, you know, any kind of like shamanic work or like plant medicine. Have you ever tried any of the plant medicines? Neil and I were watching last night about ayahuasca. I haven't tried it myself though, but I've heard like people who have had amazing experiences.
Oh, I don't knock anything like that, Denise, but I know for myself that if I ingest anything chemical that's mind altering, it's very dangerous for me. Because my thing that I've got hanging over my head all the time is, right, if I'm not clear-minded and emotionally balanced, I get to that point where I say to myself, I could have a drink now because it's been such a long time. See what I mean? So I don't do that. I live as best as possible in a sort of a clean way. So clean ingestion and, you know, not clean mind. I'm still working on that. I think that'll be with me. It gets me in trouble all the time, you know. But yeah, I think I always look for fear and contraction and tension. You know, what I've also realized is that the world, the human world as it stands now, has worked on something called psychology. And the solution is something called spirituality, which is beyond human thinking. Now, I'm not going into any sort of religious thing here, but what I'm saying is, if we go into Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what he felt was that all human beings come to a point where their ordinary thinking doesn't work for them anymore, right? And they almost have to surrender. It's a bit like a crucifixion, actually, if you want to use Christian terms. We have to surrender and almost say to our deeper selves, or if you like, our higher selves, or whatever, we say, look, I've come to the end of my human thinking here. Give us a touch, will you? Because I don't know what to do next. And almost like, and some people do hear voices, it's almost like trains of thought come in to say, well, look, why don't you jettison everything that you've learned, every single thing that you've learned now? Because basically that's exterior knowledge that's been societally conditioned within you because you've accepted it. Why don't we take our heads off, throw them away, and from this moment on, work one breath at a time and allow the information that emerges from the depth to guide you through this process. And Denise, that's how I've lived my life for the last 30 years. And I would recommend it to anybody because it's not something that's outside of me. It's something that's a deeper part of me. And it's not intellect anymore, Denise. It's real intelligence that's coming from intuition and inspiration. Now that sounds a bit woo-woo.
No, that's brilliant.
You know, I know what it feels like. And people say to me, well, what do you think? And I'll say, hang on, I'll have a feel. And they go, what are you going on about? And I'll say, hang on, I'll feel my way into this. And that's how I discern now. It's almost like my ear, my left ear, listens into my heart and tries to get a deeper sense of what's true and what's false for me. And Denise, what's true for me might be exactly the opposite for you, you see.
And it's like the divine mind then, isn't it? I was reading some of John O'Donoghue's, one of his books the other night, and there was this bit, and Master Eckhart, it was talking about him and talking about the divine mind. And then it's just like, I have this here beside me, like, and the mind is energy. Yeah. So it's just remembering that we're the mind is, when we're connected with the heart, it's all about the energy, and it's like tapping into that energy. And it's like saying that thing, like your gut, you're so intuitive, Joe. And that's what I was saying, like you have that intuition, but you also have that, as you said, the knowing, the intellect. But how do you bring that through when you're teaching at university, when you're dealing with, like, you know, the academia?
Yeah, I'll say, and here is an academic word that goes along with this, because I can now I've learned to bring in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, and Bloom's taxonomies and all these sort of things. So I can actually apply neuroscientific words to basically what's a very simple concept, that there are different stages of development that all humans go through. All the world's a stage. And as we transcend one stage, some of it gets left behind because it's not fully developed. And as we carry on, we get to a point where we've got no energy left. So then we apply, if you like, to the deeper mind to say, will you show us how it's done? And what happens is, hand in hand with your higher power, or God, or Jesus, or whoever, whatever works for you, you know. I don't put labels on things now because it's confusing, but it's almost to get a sense of that this spiritual universal hand gets hold of you, takes you right back to the beginning, and walks you through the bits that you went round the fence on rather than jumping over. And what seems to happen is, as you overcome each fear, a whole load more energy that's being trapped in that little sort of compartment is then released back into your system. And I honestly believe, Denise, that that's what true empowerment is, because as you do this and overcome fear, you become more empowered, more courageous, more confident, and your self-esteem improves because it's coming from within you and not from some sort of external expert.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's just trusting that, isn't it? And just going for it. Because sometimes I can find we can hold back. Like me doing the Positive People Show, I had the idea to do this about 2 years ago, but I only started doing it about 3 months ago, because I kept thinking, oh, I'm maybe not ready yet, or well, maybe I wasn't. I always believe in divine timing as well. But you know, when I started doing it, and I've got like so many amazing guests to have on, like yourself and all the guests I had before and all the guests I have to come, and it's just so interesting just to get people on and get them to talk about what they believe and what they feel and what they're teaching and what they're doing, and how we all have ups and downs. It's not as if we're coming on here and saying, oh, we're so positive 100% of the time, because we're not. And that's what I love about you, Joe. You are just so real. And I love your hashtag, getting real with Dr. Joe, because you'll come on and do, like, you're great at doing your running. Like, you inspired me 2 years ago to go and get those good runners for my birthday and start doing the Couch to 5K, because I had a limiting belief that I couldn't run. I've told you this, because I thought, I can't run. I was told at school, oh no, you can't do cross country or long distance. You know, I was okay at the 100 meters or the 200 meters. And then I saw you out, Joe. And what age are you now? Do you don't mind us saying your age? What are you, 60?
66 and a half.
Yeah.
666. My favorite number.
But you were out running, and I was thinking, flip, I'm 54 now, so it was 2 years ago, and I was like thinking, there's Joe out doing that, Dr. Joe running away. If he can do it, I can do it. And and it was brilliant. You were just out doing your run, and I thought, I'm going to do it, and I started to do the Couch to 5K. So you're the one that got me into that. But you'll be out doing your running, and then you'll stop some days and you'll just have a chat with everybody, and you'll say, I'm feeling great today or whatever, and then you'll stop some days and say, today's not a good day, but I'm out and I'm running and blah blah blah, and you're just really honest. And that's what I think people just love about you. You're just so you. You don't have a face up, everything's brilliant, or you just say it how it is. You're really authentic, which is so refreshing.
Well, I try and be, Denise, you know, and I can sort of feel when stories are going to try and come in. Do you know what I mean? When the old stories going to come in, and, you know, and I think more than anything else is we're human, but we're also, there's a deeper part of us. And if you want to call that divine, if you're religiously, or I don't have a religion anymore as such. The only religiousness I've got really is the feeling that's in my heart. Yeah. Because I almost feel that the heart is a gateway. Right, and when the gates open, something much more profound speaks to us, you know. And I have it in my head. I don't have that many pictures, but I have it in my head like a well. It's almost like a font or a fount. It's a font, you know, or the fount of all knowledge, whatever the correct expression. But in my mind, I get like Yoda. You know, Yoda, he's sitting on the end of this well, and he's saying to me, "How are you today, son?" and all that. And I'm saying, "I'm all right. But can you give us a clue what I should do next?" Let me see, you know. And, you know, maybe I'm on my way back to the psychiatric department, Denise. I don't know, because I was in there for 8 weeks the last time I was in there, you know, and I learned a lot about myself. But, you know, there is a wackiness in me, believe it or not.
I love it.
That I think it's meant to be there, because I think I'm sort of inclined towards the spirit of the Heyoka, and that's basically like a joker who's got some wise information. Can I just say about me? People say to me, "Oh God, you're so clever, and you know, you get all this information." I honestly don't feel like that, Denise, at all. You know, I feel, well, sometimes when I'm walking up the hospital corridors with my suit on, when I used to wear suits, and with my briefcase, if I see somebody coming down the other way with a suit on and a briefcase, a little Joe goes, "Ooh, I hope they don't stop me and ask me what I'm doing here," you know. So I still have that in me. And for all I know, they're looking at me thinking the same thing, you know.
Yeah, I know. But that's nice. That's being humble, isn't it? I think humility is lovely. It really is. But I love you saying there about the wackiness, you know. I mean, I know I'm like, that's why we connected so well. We're both, you know, I was going to say a bit wacky, but no, I don't think it's a bit. And my girls are always saying to me, "Mummy, you're so wacky." And well, now they've changed it. It's like, "You're so weird," but they used to be, when they were a bit younger, "You're so wacky." And then I just used to say, "I love being wacky." So then they would say it back. I'd go, "You're so wacky." They go, "I love being wacky," you know. But I do love being wacky, and I know it didn't go down well at, you know, Strabane Grammar School, but it didn't go down well at all. And I always felt like, you know, I felt like what is it they say, a square peg in a round hole. But you know, it suits with, you know, positive parties and the kind of the training I take into the workplaces and everything, in schools and public sector. And I think that's what people like. I would find you, Joe, saying things about, I love the way that you can use, you know, your academic words, but then you always make it simple. You always turn things around and simplify it. And as they say, if you can't explain it to your granny, you don't bother explaining it at all. And we have to keep things simple, don't we? And Einstein said, keep it simple, make it fun. And that's what I feel I do with positive parties. And I know that's what you do, because I've seen you go in and do, you know, some of your presentations. And I know when you're lecturing at uni and everything, you know, oh my goodness, how I would love to be a student there in one of your lectures, because there just must be, you know, that big dirty laugh you have as well. Like, who can't help laughing at that? Like, you know, you're not stuffy, you know, you're not really serious. You bring joy and fun and laughter into all that you deliver. And I feel that's what it's all about. If we can bring warmth, joy, laughter, fun, and our own wisdom and our own knowledge, and then share from other people, I feel that's so important. Because I know, and I'm sure you're the same, when I'm facilitating and delivering and presenting, a big part of it is finding out what other people have to say in the room, and then getting the peers. Like, if I have somebody who's like, I had a group of teachers away at the beginning of January there, and we were talking about meditation. Does anybody meditate? And somebody, about 6 or 7 of them, said no, but a couple said yes. And I said, well, would you like to tell your peers about meditation? And I felt that was so important, because the teacher herself was saying, I tried meditation before, it didn't work for me. I started doing Pilates during lockdown, then I did meditation, and this is how it has helped me. So actually to have her tell her peers was actually more powerful than me going on about it.
No, I agree, Denise, and I do a lot of lectures, if you like, to consultant physicians, right? And basically, especially with what's gone on over the last 18 months, there's a lot of them who are sort of on the edge, really, and they're stressed to the gills, and many of them as well, because I also talk about things like Tai Chi and yoga and mindfulness meditation and cold water swimming and stuff like that. And it's amazing now how many of them are actually taking up those things now to try and get some space away from the front line, if you like, to try and focus on themselves. Because I think in a way we've sort of been duped, or I'll talk about me. I was sort of duped to believe that I would find happiness by giving my all to others in order for them to be happy. It's a lie for me, Denise, it's a lie. I think that the answer is, of course, help other people if it makes you feel good. But if it becomes a chore and it exhausts you and then you become ill as a consequence, there's something wrong there. So to go back to the main point of this talk, it's about restoring equilibrium and balance. It's all about balance. And so a lot of these doctors are actually taking up things like Tai Chi, and they say things like, oh my God, I've just realized this. You know, and that's what real self-realization is, when you're sort of disentangled from that great mighty web that we've woven of fear and pride and obligations. When you get a bit of space and you get thinking like, hang on a second, what about me in this whole thing? You know, and that's what I teach people. I teach people to become selfish temporarily or forever if it makes them feel better. I mean, you know, I have a program called the I Am Approach to Health and Wellbeing.
Yes. Right. Tell us about that, because I just love that. That is just brilliant. Tell us about it.
Well, I am, and I didn't know this, Denise. This was given to me. I say given to me. It was plunked in my head as an inspiration, and I call it the I Am Approach. And I say to my inside person, self-guide, whatever, I say, well, what's all that about? And I say, find out first what the I Am is. And I found out that in Indian, you know, Hindu philosophy, the I Am is basically the source of everything. You know, it's the essential, uncluttered, unconditioned, creative force. And I thought, oh, that's nice. I like that. And I then get, well, why am I calling it I Am? I said, well, don't call it I Am. Put the three words together, you know, the three letters together. And I go, okay, this is like, you know, me cracking up again. So put I Am. Well, what does that mean? It means innate asset management.
Wow.
And I'll say, that's very nice. Explain more. And so, you know, this is me sitting on my own in the house, you know, getting all this information. So innate means what you're born with. You know, they are the gifts, they are the skills, they are the talents that naturally come through to you without you having to learn them, right? So they're effortless to use. And each of us has a completely different set of innate abilities. And guess what, Denise? If you work with what works for you, they're your innate abilities, right? Then you'll feel happy and enthusiastic.
Of course.
But if you live in a society where it doesn't look at the assets, it just looks at the deficits, you'll never be happy, because you'll always be fighting against your natural essential self. So the idea would be, wouldn't it, Denise? It would be for a group of 12 people in a team with different innate skills and abilities, putting all their gifts together to create something positive. And guess what? As that project materializes, right, it expands more and more and more and more and more, you know, and that's what it's about. And the management, Denise, it doesn't come from the external, it comes from intuition. And what happens, Denise, is when these 12 so-called people get together, there's what's happened is a group conscience is formed then that's much more powerful. And so it really powers on then, right? And it's positive, it's compassionate, it cares for everybody, including itself first and foremost. And by working in this way, Denise, I feel that groups of 12 will then link up to another group of 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. And so the 12 tribes will basically cover the globe. What do you think about that, Denise?
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And it's like, and, you know, it's nearly like, you know, when you think of the 12 too, you think of the apostles, the 12 apostles. I'm kind of thinking of that.
Well,
And
well, I get that. I get that. I'm
I
sorry
know
to
you
put in,
get
but
it.
I get 12 disciples because the disciples are really disciplines. The
Yeah.
disciplines are related then to different skills and careers. So there are
Wow.
actually 12 different careers. Some of them are left-brained, which are more scientific, academic, and linear. Some of them are right-brained, which are more holistic, curvy. So the answer to the world's problems are actually curvy, linear, in a global sort of spherical way. You know, but the other thing I've
There
learned
you
is,
go, your big
Denise, and
words
this is
again.
what, yeah, but this is where I'm going with this, is that the heart, which is basically the master or the center of this, is actually linked to the 12 cranial nerves. Cool. And to me, those 12 cranial nerves represent potential intelligences that are available to all human beings. Wow. All human beings. And this is really a follow-on from Howard Gardner's work of the theory of multiple intelligences. Now, he only came up with 8, but Dr. Joey D thinks there's actually 12, and there's actually a physiological and psychological correlation between the 12 cranial nerves, the 12 meridians, the 12 disciplines, the 12 tribes, the 12 and on we go.
Wow. Wow. And you would, I'm just kind of thinking as well too, it's like that Napoleon Hill talks about in his book, you know, Think and Grow Rich. And it really is think, and it's like think and grow, and then your life will be richer, basically. He talks about the mastermind group. When you get people together and it's the minds and the hearts of people all together that are helping each other. And it's not about competition, and it's about everybody's coming in with their own innate abilities, as you would say. And that's, so throughout the ages, it's like really tapping into what we know, isn't it, really? You know, when you think you're tapping into that, and you've come up with this program that you know from past lives, probably, that this is happening, that, you know, I don't say probably, it is, that you just know it. And I suppose it's like when I come in with the divine inspiration for positive parties, you're tapping into make it simple, keep it simple, make it fun. We're going in because it's all about coming from the heart. It's all about coming from that place. We have our own uniqueness, we have our own abilities. We're wanting to keep it light, we're wanting to keep it fun, we're wanting to be playfulness, working together, not being in competition. It's just coming back to the soul, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think the deeper and the more we let go, the more potential appears to us, really. Yeah. I say, really, the deeper I go, the more that 0 point, right, opens. The more information, we're calling it quantum intelligence, and people are going on about quantum stuff and quantum this, you know. And to me, it's just basically, if you like, different dimensions of energy with more subtle messages. So the first ones are a bit gross, and as you drop into that and go deeper, it becomes more refined. They call it gross, subtle, non-causal and non-dual. There's all sorts of names for it. But the point about it is, the more that you can surrender, the more that you get in touch with gentler, more loving, more intelligent energies. It's a bit like the ripple on the pond, isn't it? So you drop the stone in, and initially there's like little waves, but as they spread out, there's still the same wave, but just a further distance away. And I think, you know, we can try and link it up to all these things. So what I'm trying to go for is mindfulness. To me means let go, observe, interfere. If any feelings come up, allow them to emerge without interfering or trying to make them more comfortable, because the more that you can sit with them in the middle of your heart, the more the message comes, and the more the energy comes that's associated with the message. And as soon as you get the message, you get all that energy that's being held down through years and years of suppression, repression, oppression. The answer, I think, Denise, is to be comfortable in expressing who you are, right? Because that's where the true talents and gifts and the way forward is. Ooh. I feel like the Pope again now. I can feel like the Pope coming in.
You're brilliant. And I wanted to mention too, you were brought up like myself and like an Irish Catholic background, weren't you? Your mum or dad or both your parents who's Irish?
Yeah, my dad was Irish. He was born in Dublin. My mum's family, her dad was from Mayo.
Right.
You know, I've got loads and loads of relatives in Ireland. In fact, I'm an Irish citizen myself and stuff like that, you know. So at the age of 11, I was sent away to train to be a Catholic priest, you know, because they used to send the eldest away then, you know.
Right,
and
okay.
I went away for 18 months. And I had to come home because I was missing my mum so much, you know. But
Right.
within that 18 months, Denise, such a lot happened to me. I mean, in a positive way,
Right.
where I was seeing loads of different things and stuff, you know. And when I came back, the bishop wrote to me to say I could go and train anywhere in the world as long as I kept on with the priesthood. And I couldn't, Denise. I went from the frying pan into the fire. I went from the priesthood training into a school of Christian brothers, which was all about learning through fear. Right.
Yeah.
And Denise, I knew what I wanted to say, but when it came to exams, it wouldn't come out. And the teachers were, I was blocked by fear. The teachers were amazed at my poor grades because they had such great expectations for me, but I couldn't get it out because I was afraid of, if I don't get a good mark, what will they think of me? And, you know, but in this school I went to, it was called St. Anselm's College, right? What they used to do there is they used to teach you by strapping you if you got it wrong. So you used to get the strap if you got anything wrong, you know. And Denise, I couldn't learn because I was afraid. And I know now that my job is to try and help people to overcome little fears step by step, to re-empower them, to put them back, not me putting them back, to be guided to their innate resourcefulness so that they can go and go with it, because that's how they'll have a better life. They'll be much nicer to live with. They'll be more creative, and the world will be much more positive. But more, I feel like I'm lecturing here, but the most important thing I've learned is it's all about collective individuality. It's not about becoming part of some sort of Borg standardized thing. It's about being your individual, unique self and going and be confident enough to be that. Yeah,
totally. You've just summed it all up. You really have. So have you any more stories about growing up though, being in an Irish family? I'm sure there was some crack there. It just
So do you want me to talk about sex? Sex was a sin. I didn't even know what sex was. At 7 years of age, I knew it was a sin. I knew if ever I had sex, whatever you do with sex at 7, right, it was a sin. It became, you know, it blocked me. So when feelings arose of an almost human nature, I became an expert in yoga. What I could do was I could close my throat and I could push all this stuff that was trying to emerge, and then I could repress it into my shoulder. That's why I became like Uriah Heep, you know. It was like natural stuff trying to get out, but it caused this like hump on me back, right? And so the whole point is, right, it was another mechanism really, because as you know, Denise, the sacral chakra and sex is associated. It's the second chakra or energy point, and it's associated with procreativity. That's in a physical sense, because we need that as a drive to create children to further the human race. However, believe it or not, there's a point that if you can get it past your belly button and your sacral chakra, it will then actually empower the rest of the chakras, which will light them up and allow the gifts to come through. So what's supposed to happen, Denise, believe it or not, is it's supposed to come in from Mother Earth, up through the perineum into the root chakra, up into the tickling of the sacral chakra, and then you've got to go, get off, I'm trying to get, you know. So ascension to me is when the energy comes uninterrupted all the way through the open chakras and out like a fountain out of the crown of the head. Yeah. And so, yes, so for a long time, I didn't know what to do with that, because when I drank, strange things happened to me, and it's almost like it released that energy and caused all sorts of trouble. And when I woke up the next morning, I think, oh my God, what's happening to me, you see? So that was the sex side of things. It was a sin, right? Yeah. And it's not a sin, it's just a natural instinct that just needs balancing out. And in order to balance it out, sometimes you've got to go and experiment, right? You know, but until you come.
Yeah, but that's just what the churches did years ago to try and suppress us. You know, it was just about, they didn't want people to know about that the power within every one of us, that each one of us is a divine spark, you know, that we have it. So if you're told to obey and everything's a sin, you're kept down. But thankfully people are coming out of that now, and people aren't, you know, well, a lot of people aren't listening to that anymore. So
no, but it's good though. But people like us who maybe still got those sort of things trapped in our psyches. Yeah. Any talk of it, if we're talking about this as natural, ordinary adults, and we mention sex, if you get a grip and you go, oh God, no, what? Right, that means, hang on, have a look at why you're reacting to that in such a big way. Because there's a phrase that says, you are only as sick as your secrets, right? And to me, that's globules, right, of unresolved psychological repressed spheres or whatever that need to come into the light. And you know, Denise, you know, I mean, I know that you know this, but you know, when you come to a balance point, it no longer becomes a big deal. Yeah. But until the point when it's repressed and hiding and all that sort of stuff, everything's significant. You might see something and it sparks off a significance, and then you get the feeling and you go, oh my God, you see. So we're always living in the fear of being exposed. You know, the other one is speak when you're spoken to, you know, and always you must respect authority figures. Denise, these were things I was brought up by parents who loved me, and they were following the rules that were given to them. And it's called victim of victims of victims. And I sort of see it now as an enforced slavedom. And I think more and more people now are casting off all the habits, like what monks were. They're casting off those robes of old reactions, and they're sort of being reconnected to their new creative self. Christ, I didn't know I was going to go on about this, but this is what happens to me.
You're brilliant. But the thing is, when we get triggered, and I talk about this most weeks when we talk, you know, when things come up for us, we, as you said, we have to sit there, we have to sit and feel it, and we have to let it out. You know, but not everybody knows that. Not everybody knows that they can sit in the feeling. And, you know, I would be very kind of sad. I feel things and my body will shake, or I will actually as well, and as you know, energy will come up to me. We said we weren't going to get too wacky, but we're kind of here now. But energy will come up to me through burps. You know, I will let energy out through, and it will release through me, through, you know. And my girls think it's gross, but you're releasing the energy. But to any, you know, and when it first started happening to me, I thought if my mother was behind me now, she would give me a slap, because like, how rude, have manners. But you're releasing old energy that is stuck in your cellular memory. And how amazing is that to actually release it out of your body, you know? And there'll probably be some people watching this and they'll go, she's clean mad. But I tell you, this releasing energy like that in any way that you do, we have to get it out. Body work is so important.
It is, and Sifu Boggy talks about this, you know, breathe in the chi and breathe out the cha. That's called cha, that repressed energy. You know, you burp, like, you know, mine comes out the other end. No, it doesn't. I'm only joking, right? Just in case you ever get close to me. But the whole point about it is another indication of deep relaxation, especially when you try meditation, is yawning. It's not boredom, it's actually energy. And sometimes people who've got problems with the solar plexus and the block from a closed heart, as they relax and their heart opens, that energy comes up, and it can sometimes come up through the throat, cause you to yawn, and cause your eyes to water as well. These would be really, really positive signs, you know. And sometimes if you're really yawning and you've had a pain in your tummy, sometimes that energy releases the pain in your stomach as well. So this is more than just physical. It's also to do with energy that's invisible, but definitely present at the same time. You know.
Do you know what I would find too? Sometimes, even if, you know, I'm leaving a message to somebody, like my friend, our gorgeous friend Sarah Griffith, you know, Willie Mama, I might be leaving a message to Sarah and talking something, but I might yawn a lot through the message. And there's like, I have this soul connection with her that I'm kind of nearly releasing and healing when I'm leaving Sarah a message, and she'll leave one back to me and she's running through it, and we'll laugh through it, going over so weird. But that will happen to other people as well. I will leave messages and they'll kind of be, I'm releasing as I'm merely talking something out. Yeah, when you're leaving a wee WhatsApp message.
So that's that rebalancing process, which in actual fact will improve the balance at the level of the heart. The level of the heart then will inspire the head. The waves change from beta to alpha theta, and everything settles down. There's loads of neuroscience that connects all this stuff up now. It's marvelous, you know. And yes, Sarah, I love Sarah, and that other one, Sean, or whatever their name is. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I missed them all, you know, because we used to have a good crack when we used to get a group together.
I know. We'll have to, like Sinead, you know, Sinead's from Strabane, my hometown. Yeah,
oh, I know it well.
Yeah, I know. She's brilliant. I know.
I sent her a video of the Strabane man, you know. Remember the little video of the man from Strabane, right?
When I first
I seem to have a. Sorry, Denise.
No, when I first went away to study, like when I was over in Scotland, I remember I got teased so much about that, you know, the wee man from Strabane about talking so fast. Yeah. So I was going to say something else there, and I can't remember what it was. I hate when that happens. Go you first. You were going to tell me something first.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and people say to me, you know, what do you think about this that's happening in the world, what I should do? I don't really get involved too much with external stuff. I was told really a long time ago that my life would be managed for me from the depths, and that's what's happened to me. And so I don't intellectually manage my day anymore. I just wake up, I tap on my heart. This is a sort of the routine. Before I open my eyes, I open my heart, I feel in with my left ear, and I just basically say, what's on the cards today? You know, I'm happy to do what you guide me to. Now, that could be seen as some sort of religious thing, but it's not. It's a feeling of, it's just feeling, really. And I get a sense of, why don't you go and play out, you know? And it doesn't really matter what other people tell me what I should do. I then listen to what they've got to say, put it in my heart, have a feeling. And if I don't want to do it, I'm honest enough now to say, no, I don't want to do it. And some people say to me, well, why not? And I just say, because I don't feel like I want to. And that's where I've come. One of the biggest things to me now is the ability to say no when I mean no, and yes when I mean yes. Do I get it right all the time, Denise? No, I'm learning like everybody else. I only ever feel like I'm just scratching the surface of this like pile of stuff, positive stuff that's trying to come up and express itself, you know. So that's where I'm up to. Yeah,
I feel the same. And, you know, sometimes I feel that, you know, when we say kind of sort of ignorance, we don't know things. I was just thinking back there to the talking about the yawning. When I first was introduced about 12 years ago to transforming cellular memory, I went along to this session and I could feel the energy when I walked into the room. And this was kind of my first experience of it. And there was this guy, Don Hansen from America, he was doing the TCM. But there was this woman beside me and she kept yawning. And I remember thinking, she is so rude. He is up there doing all this work and she's going, oh. And you know what? When I think back of it now, I laugh because that was the energy, but I just didn't know. It was my ignorance, you know, that I didn't know what was happening. So sometimes when we start on this journey, and as you say, we're only on the tip of it, things will happen, things will arise for us, and we're kind of like, what's that? I don't understand it. But then, you know, a bit down the line, we're doing it ourselves because we have opened up more on our journey. We're learning more. We have decided to do, like years ago, I thought, okay, inner child stuff, now that's a big part of what I do. And yeah, we just have to keep taking it step by step. And when we're guided to do something, I know I will always get really clear signs, whether it's my body or my arm will shake, or things will just be at my feet sometimes. You know, the signs are so clear that what I have to do and where I'm to go. And we just have to intuitively trust where we're going, because we have to listen to the signs, don't we?
We do, and talking to people like yourself, that's an indication for me as well. And I listen intently to what you're saying, and I'll get like a little bell goes off to say, pay attention to this bit, Joe. And basically, Joe, what you've just said to Denise, you need to pay attention to that as well. So I'm always listening for clues about going forward, you know, because sometimes what's coming out of my mouth is not meant for anybody else. It's meant for me directly, you know. So I don't know, Denise. I mean, I'm just like feeling my way through it like everybody else, you know. And I think what I've come to is, if there's an event or a person or a situation, if you can take it or leave it, you're in a balance point, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you can't, then it's got you, you know, and that's the difficulty. And to me, mindfulness is about creating space where you can see both options equally and then come to a heartfelt decision to choose the best way forward.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's really simple because it's based upon feeling, not any sort of clever, tricky, dicky thinking.
Yeah. And it's about that whole not having any expectations as well, isn't it? About coming in from a place of love, from your heart center, your uniqueness, you know, bringing forth all that you have to give and then letting go with no expectations, because then you're too attached to what you're sending out there. Isn't that right? Yeah.
And I think I've just bought the lotto and I still have that feeling is maybe this is the one, you know what I mean? Maybe the universe is going to send this one here because that would really solve a lot of problems. And so there is a human part of me that's still massive, you know. I've still got a massive ego and I don't care now because I think the ego is needed in a balanced way. I think the problem is egomania. I think that's it, because that's an extreme where either it wants to hide as far as it can under the soil and not be discovered, or it wants to be king of the castle. You know, they're the egomaniacal extremes. And I think the problem is, is when we're in either like a boat bipolar, you know, when we're in one or the other, that's when this real conflict comes. So if we can let go of both of them and allow them to come back to the middle way, I think that's probably the way forward, you know.
Yeah. And how do you feel well as it? Would you write down your gratitudes every day or do self-discipline like that? No?
No, I just feel I can bring a gratitude list into my head and a feeling. It's a feeling, Denise. I mean, what I do is, I mean, I'll bring in today, what day is it now? Thursday, is it?
Thursday, yeah.
Okay, I'll bring my wife in because she's normally nice to me on Thursday and that brings a nice feeling in. And if that doesn't work for me, I'll bring one of the cats in and then that opens that feeling even more. And then gratitude pours in. It is, to me, it's about cultivating an attitude of gratitude. And sometimes when you're on one, it's the only way to get over yourself. And the only other way to really disengage you from your sort of egocentricity is throw yourself wholeheartedly into helping somebody else, because that temporarily relieves you of all the self-pity and the misery and stuff like that, you know.
I know, totally. And I think too, it's just, I've been doing like Joyful June this past June, and it's really let me tap into the joy that we can just see in every moment. And obviously we're not going to be joyful all the time. You know, my gorgeous godmother, my aunt, passed over into the light on, you know, last Saturday, and we had the funeral, you know, on Monday. And, you know, you have to have sorrow. The opposite of joy is sorrow. And you have to have the sorrow for, you know, this beautiful lady, human, has left the human planet, but you know, she's gone into the light. But then you have, it was just really weird, because then you have the joy of being there with your cousins who have come over from England and you haven't seen people in ages. So it's that real bittersweet of you've come together all, but to grieving together and the sorrow, and then celebrating her beautiful life, and then the joy of us all sitting around and talking about our grandparents and you know, and about lovely funny stories and stuff. So and it's appreciating. I didn't do any Joyful June this week. I suppose it's kind of that old Irish thing, a bit of like out of respect, you know, you will not get on this week and talk about Joyful June, but I think, you know, at the end of the week I probably will, and I'm going to talk about this as well. But it's like seeing the joy in every moment. So seeing the joy even of going to the funeral and celebrating somebody's life, but also seeing the joy in the little moments. Like last night, Neil was going outside and he was carrying the plants and watering the plants, and I just saw the joy in him looking. He looks after all the plants and the plant pots and things here, and it's just the joy in that, or the joy in, I think I put up the other day, Emer making some nice buns, that the coffee bun, and things that you wouldn't usually say, oh, there's a lot of joy in biting into that nice coffee cupcake. But when you're being mindful of being joyful, you can see it in everything, can't you?
I agree. And it's a bit like eating, isn't it, really? Because we taste food in our mouths and with our tongue. So once it's swallowed, the taste is gone. But you know, I've watched myself is I taste something and then swallow a whole portion of it, right? Do you see what I mean? So I overeat. I mean, I know that I overeat, but by taking even more time, as Mary Poppins might say, chew the food 27 times, I can understand that, because then it's getting the benefit of it. Some food tastes horrible when you really and you can dismiss that then. So in the end, mindfulness will bring you back to what works for you as well. So that's something that I'm actually focusing on at the moment. And hopefully it will help me not to overeat and to lose some weight so I can go faster in the London Marathon, right, that I'm doing at the end of the year. And also the Great North Run, because I'm still going, Denise, I'm still going.
You just amaze me with that. You do. And I mean, I hurt my back about 6 to 8 weeks ago, and maybe it was about 6 weeks, and I haven't been able to get out running again. It's my lower back. It's still not right again. I thought, oh goodness, it's kind of pissed me off a bit, because I want to get out running again, but I know I don't want to be silly about it. But I have found the running amazing. There's something about it that, you know, I'll go out from a walk, but when you go out from a run, it's just like, it's the energy running through your body when you come back. And isn't that, you see, when you move, when you just, oh my goodness, and I know too, when you deliver, sometimes do you play music and get everybody to dance? I do that in positive parties. And Shanine posted up something the other day, and I put under it last night, Boogie Wonderland. And I remember being at a conference once, there was like so many speakers, and most people were doing a PowerPoint, and they were standing up and they were just speaking and speaking in PowerPoint. And then up comes Wacky Denise doing her positive parties bit in the middle for about, like, I was doing like an energizer for about 25 to 30 minutes, and I came up and I got everybody was like half asleep, because, you know, no disrespect, if you have had hours of PowerPoints, people are like this at the end, no matter how good the PowerPoint is. So I had everybody up dancing to Boogie Wonderland, and it was just amazing, and the energy in the room just changed, you know, because people were moving, people were dancing. Then I got some people up on the stage, then I was handing out prizes for stuff. People were getting into pairs and telling stories, and everybody was clapping and cheering. And it's so important to have movement, and that's what the running does. It's the movement, isn't it? It's just, explain what it does for you. We've gone over the time here, flip sake, but we're just, let's keep going another wee minute. I don't want it to be too long, because then it takes, we live up in the sticks, and it takes ages then for me to put it up on YouTube. It can take a weekend. If I go too long.
The music, I always play music when I'm running, and people say to me, what are you playing? And they think I'm playing some sort of meditation music, and it couldn't be further from the truth. It's like euphoria from Ibiza and trance music, you know what I mean? And Zumba type music, and sometimes it definitely affects the way I run. If I've got a really fast one going, I'm running like mad, and then suddenly a quieter one will come, you know. So the music impacts me very, very deeply, you know, but I love it. And sometimes I'll put Native American stuff on when I'm doing meditation, and it's almost like stuff comes out. So Denise, I don't know, I don't fully understand how it works. I'm not that bothered really to understand it. It's just doing it that's important, because that's getting that feeling of open and flowing heart. That's when, if you like, the inspiration and the intuition comes through, you know.
Totally.
So I keep my head out of the way, open my heart, and see what comes up next. But the most important thing is acting upon information received. It's to be clear about the information's coming from the heart up and not the head down. That's where I'm up to. Not that we shouldn't use our intellect, but to me, it's got to be inspired by intuition first and foremost.
Totally. Well, I was doing the program that I was doing recently, and they talked about the higher mental faculties. And the higher mental faculties are, you know, intuition, perception, will, reason, memory, and imagination. And that's all then about taking those, but they have to tap into the heart. So it's like as you say, they have to come from here. So before we go, what do you think of I know we could be here all day. What do you think of self-discipline? That's something that I find I really have to work on, because I can sometimes go after, you know, the nice shiny, let's have good crack things. Like I'll be sitting down to do something, and then a call might come in from somebody, and I'll be like, oh, that's my friend, I kind of want to have a chitty chat there, and off I go. And then I have my list of things that I really want to do, and it's like that, you know, there's that kind of struggle with me sometimes to get things done that I want to move forward, and then it's like just stop and have, like, you know, a chitty chat.
Where I'm up to with that, I've just marked 60 dissertations, right? And I have a fear of, oh, here we go, it's going to be as boring as hell, you know. And then I go, well, hang on, that's self-pity, that's this, that, okay, right, I've spotted that, right? And then I say to me heart, will you please guide me on doing these correctly, please, right? And then I just, if I feel like it's open and flowing, I sit down and do some. If I feel like it's closing down, I get up and do something else. And Denise, what happens is always on the deadline, I've got them done. I've got them done. So self-discipline to me is with a big S, not the little s, because the little s is the whinging, whining ego self that doesn't want to do proper work.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a balance between what brings me money in and playing out. So the game, that's your transactional analysis, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
It's the so self-discipline to me comes from a deeper place, right, and is guided from beyond my intellect, really.
Yeah. Totally. But I think it's just one of those old things as well. For me, it can be an old paradigm, because it's that word discipline that, you know, my dad loved that word discipline. You know, they loved it, you know, school loved the word discipline, you know, and I always kind of wanted to be like, oh, you know, you would say, oh, you're always breaking the rules, you know, you were like, oh, flip, I hate discipline, I hate that word. It's kind of that constricting.
No, I understand, because you said 12 apostles before, and my head said 12 disciples, you see. So there's that thing that even a word can have power if you let it, you know.
Yeah, I'm very aware of it. That's because, because discipline comes from the disciples. Yeah, I know. And they followed Jesus, and we know that that's all coming from Jesus, the divine, the universe, energy, whatever you want to call it, is all coming from source, which is linking to the heart. So the discipline really is your heart. If you could turn that around, geez, I'd be flying. If I turned discipline into my heart, I'd be like.
But I think that's happening to all of us. I think we're being guided to do the things that are essential. So my priorities have changed totally now.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
And I feel like I'm on a sort of conveyor belt that's coming from here now, and I've got to put my head on it and say, okay, what do you want me to do, really? So that's where I'm sort of up to, you know. I mean, you mentioned imagination before. That's what Einstein thought was the greatest gift that humanity's got to offer. Imagine, uncluttered, unfettered sort of imagination, to allow it to go and then try and bring the bits in, right, and bring it down and act upon it, you know, and stuff like that. So I think we're doing all right, really. We'll just carry on and see what happens next.
Definitely. But you've used when you think your imagination brought in your I am, what's it called? The I am approach
to health and
I am approach. Yeah, I am approach. Like that was your imagination and the divine inspiration that brought in the I am approach. You know, it was my imagination and, you know, as I call the divine inspiration that brought in Positive Party. So and then when you think of the passion that comes behind what we want to do with this, the I am approach and, you know, Positive Parties, the passion comes in. You're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, because you know it's come from a higher source and you just want to share it with everybody.
Yeah, I think that's all. If a soul has a purpose, that would be mine, is to share my experience, my strength and my hope with people, to say, look, I tried to do myself in, now I'm having the time of my life. Right, don't get me wrong, it's not always brilliant, but at least I've got a set of tools now to put me back on the right path to carry on and going forward. And to me, that's what life's all about. It's about sharing, it's about human experience, sharing experience, but it's about self-mastery in the end, you know. And I'm sort of living a lot of the time now beyond words and even beyond symbols. Sometimes there's nothing at all in my mind, just a feeling of flow. Am I like that all the time? No. But, you know, if it's going to be like that all the time, it will come without me interfering, because I think if I interfere and try and work out and wangle, it obstructs the flow anyway. So I have to let it go in the end anyway, you know.
Yeah. But to, you know, you're in this, the academic world, you know, but I love the way you're bringing through all this amazing and about energy and talking about all this stuff, you know, and that for you must have been a bit scary at the start, was it, to be bringing that in, you know, and talking about it to the rest of, you know, the lectures and even into the universities? How did that go?
No, I still get obstructed. Well, I don't get obstructed. I just be myself, you know, but they come back with all sorts of rationalizations and academic and where's the proof and all that. I say, look, I'm the proof. I'm the proof. You know, I am the journal of anecdotal medicine, N=1. I don't need to prove anything to you. I'm the proof that works for me. And that's where I'm up to. I don't take it off them anymore. I used to say, oh, yes, you know, and it used to talk me out of it. And I'd try and sort of mince me words then to try and get them to understand. But now I just carry on like this. And a strange thing happening is there's more and more people expressing themselves more fully now. And so in the background, it's almost like the wave is bringing in a sort of new paradigm, if you like. So I think medicine's changing. It's got to change. I think that the old structure, right, is being disintegrated. And I think there won't be doctors like there are doctors now, you know, where you sort of go in, say a load of symptoms, they feed it into a computer and out pops a prescription. I think those days are over now. Yeah. I think the doctors of the future will be more like medical physics technicians, and the medicine of the future will be frequency medicine. And the frequencies will be changed by music, by light, by sound, by taste, by, you know, the 5 senses will be used to bring in reconfiguration energy. See, you've got me going now. But that's what I'm going. I think in the future as well, there will be these med beds, right, where people can almost, like, remember sunbeds? You could lie on it for 20 minutes and come out brown or red. You know, I think that there'll be beds like that in the future that will be able to reset you to your primary soul's essential vibration. So you come out and then you're raring to go again. But we're away from that at the moment. But Denise, that is definitely the medicine of the future, in my view. And like I say to everybody all the time, everything I've said on this program, it may be a load of old rubbish, but if it sits true with you, maybe you want to think about it a bit more deeply, you know. Yeah. Because I don't know everything. I'm just trying to learn myself.
You're amazing. I love your stuff. But you've just said there too, like, I know as well, when I came out about, you know, my channel and work and my book, you know, The Untold Story, Peter and Jesus, The Gap Years, that was really scary for me too, because I've been working, you know, in schools and corporate, you know, corporate companies and public sector, and it was like, how am I going to now take this and tell people that this has happened to me, this experience? But it was amazing. So many people that I would never have thought were just loved the book and loved what happened and loved the experience. And I think too, there's such freedom, and then totally just being your total wacky self and not caring what anybody thinks. That was such, and I'll talk about that now too. You know, I'll just tell people, you know, when I'm out delivering, well, I've also scribed this book, and people, and I'll say, well, you can go if you want, if it's for you, it's for you, if it's not, it's not. But I don't hold back anymore. Like you, I don't try to keep myself small because of how I have been shown along my life, along the path where I have to go. And some of it, like you, doesn't make any sense at all. But you just have to go with it, don't you? You have to go with here instead of here.
I think my final example of that would be Reiki. I'm a Reiki master, whatever that means, you know.
Me too,
but initially, I didn't understand. And the person who taught me said, it'll be with you in a minute. I thought, what the fuck? What's he talking about, you know? And then suddenly I got this woof, and I thought, oh my God, what's that? Right. And since then, I've understood that there are invisible energetics that go on that actually influence our nervous system and our physical body. And if you work that out, it's a bit like wireless communication, really. You know, they're electromagnetic waves right, that are actually carrying information. I mean, in this room where I am now, there will be millions upon millions of bits of information flying through. They're called text messages and emails, small packages carrying information. And I think what's happening, Denise, is the deeper you go into mindfulness and meditation, the more your radar goes out. The more that you can pick up more subtle information, the more it can guide your choices to go forward, either in a healthy way or an unhealthy way. So I think that's where we're up to. More and more people are understanding that in the invisible, maybe there's more going on than that meets the eyes.
Totally. But I know, geez, we're still here. But one more thing before I go about the Reiki. When I did my Reiki, first got my Reiki attunement, and then my Orla was only about 2 at the time. So she was watching then me practicing and seeing what I was doing, because I was doing self-Reiki and I was doing it on other people. So then, because of being a child, she thought that this is just what you do. So she never needed attuned. She could just put her hands on you and you can just feel the energy coming through her hands. Now, Emer was a bit older. I think she was 5 or 6 at the time. So she didn't get it the same way, but Orla just had it like that. And she could just now, I remember going over my ankle then not long after, like years ago, and she was only about 3 or 4, and she came over and she put her hands on me and you could feel the heat coming off her hands. And that's it. Like, we all have this within us, and it's just because we haven't been told, because we were conditioned through churches and all, you don't go near that. We all have this power within us, this source energy that we can use, that is part of us, but we haven't been given that information. So
I think my final point, I know I said that before, but this is the final point, right? I'm not in any way, shape or form opposed to anything if it works for the benefit of a human being. So there are many magnificent medications on the market. Not all of them are no, there are many medications that are useful, right, when used in the right amount at the right time for the right condition. So I don't fight anything at all. In fact, I work in medicine, and pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. But I, again, sense the way through it, really. And my job is really to try and get people to use non-medical interventions along with medical interventions for their benefit. And that's, so I don't fight anything. I can't see any point. I was told a long time ago, for by this time we have ceased fighting anything or anybody. And I don't want to fight anymore. I used to be a rebellious upstart, but it doesn't mean to say, Denise, that action isn't taken, because if somebody's trying to force something on you, I think that rather than react, because that's the fight, I think that we can step back mindfully and maybe go forward and act in a balanced way. I think that that's the way forward. Well, for me at least.
Joe, I totally agree. And you and I talked about that before we came on live. I'm the same. I used to be as well too, a bit of the rebel, and but now I am just being in my center, being in my own power, and doing what I need to do, and just going from my own heart and going forward my way, and not being influenced by anything around me, just doing what I need to do, because I feel it. I feel it in my body and my soul, and that's that. So I agree with you.
We haven't half gone on, haven't we?
We haven't. I know. And I don't even bother having a look here, because I'm going to be putting this up on YouTube, so I don't bother having a look at Facebook and see what's going on, so we can have a look afterwards to see who joined us and whatever. But if anybody wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
I think just on my Facebook page. I'm up to full on friends, but if you want to follow me, I'm more independent now. I've recently retired from one job, and so I've got a bit more space. But my feeling is that I'll probably be doing what a lot of people do, and write a couple of books if they come out, But I don't know, Denise. I'm just going with it, and then hopefully I'm going to do a 12 series set of videos, which will be on the I Am approach to health and well-being. So there'll be spiritual aspects, there'll be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual components. and there'll also be work packs and workbooks and stuff. So that's what I feel that I'm going towards. But you know what? I could be wrong, and tomorrow I could be doing something completely different. I don't know.
You could be doing Tai Chi, Facebook Live Tai Chi's or something. You wouldn't know what you'd be at. Or as well, people can get you on LinkedIn too, because people are going to be watching here from LinkedIn, so they can message you on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, and I have a YouTube channel as well called the I Am Connection Live. It's called.
Okay, the I Am Connection Live. Brilliant.
So thanks very much, Denise.
You're very welcome. If anybody wants to connect with me, Denise Devlin, you can get me on Facebook or LinkedIn, or my website is positiveparties.com, and on Facebook we have the Positive People community, so you connect in there as well. So Joe, thanks a million. It's just been a pleasure talking to you. I could sit here talking to you all day, but of course we have things to do. Give my love to Kat, and hopefully I'm looking forward to when we see you over here in Ireland sometime soon.
I think it's on the cards.
Okay, I hope so.
Right, my love, thank you very much, and hopefully speak to you soon.
See you soon.